Let's have an honest conversation that almost nobody in the gun world wants to have. If you are over 60, your hands are not what they were at 25. Maybe it's arthritis. Maybe it's grip strength. Maybe your eyes take an extra second to find the front sight. Or that snappy little pocket pistol you bought years ago now stings every time you press the trigger. None of that means you're done shooting. None of it means you cannot defend your home. It means the industry finally built guns for you, and most people have no idea because nobody markets a pistol by saying it is easy on arthritic hands. Today, we are covering exactly that. The handguns, the sights, and the home defense long guns that work with the hands and eyes you have now, not the ones you had in 1985. And everything in this video is current production you can walk into a shop and handle this year. Let's get into it. Here's the number one barrier for older shooters, and it is not recoil. It is racking the slide. A standard striker fire pistol, your typical Glock or SIG, takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 to 25 pounds of force to rack. That's nothing at 30. At 70, with arthritis in your thumbs, it can be the difference between a gun you train with and a gun that sits in a drawer because operating it hurts. The purpose-built Easy Rack pistols cut that force down to roughly 14 or 15 pounds, and that difference is enormous. So before we name a single model, here is the test to run on the gun counter. Ask to handle the pistol and rack it push-pull. Strong hand pushes the frame forward while the support hand pulls the slide back at the same time. If you cannot do that confidently and repeatedly, that is not your gun, no matter what the reviews say. And the same honesty applies to magazines. Loading rounds against a stiff magazine spring is its own thumb killer, which is why the best senior-friendly designs fixed the magazine too. The gun that started this whole category is the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield EZ, and EZ means exactly what you think. It is hammer-fired with a light recoil spring, so the slide racks with roughly half the effort of a standard striker gun. It has big grab-friendly slide serrations, and the magazine has load assist tabs on the follower so you can pull the spring down instead of fighting it with your thumbs. It comes in .380 for the softest recoil, currently running around $400, and in 9mm for around $540 if you want more power with the same easy rack engineering. One honest note on the .380 version: it is a lightweight polymer gun, so the recoil is a bit sharper than the small caliber suggests. Shoot both if you can. The step up from the Shield EZ is Smith & Wesson's Equalizer. Same easy rack, easy load design, but with higher capacity, 10, 13, or 15 round magazines, and it comes optics ready out of the box, which matters for reasons we will get to in a minute. If the EZ is the entry point, the Equalizer is the complete package, and it has become a genuine favorite among older carriers. On a budget, look at the Ruger Security 380 with what Ruger calls the Light Rack system. Around $370, 15 plus 1 capacity, and pronounced cocking ears at the rear of the slide that give weaker hands a real purchase. That is the most capacity per dollar in the Easy Rack world. And one more worth handling, the Walther CCP M2, which uses a gas-delayed system that both softens felt recoil and lightens the slide spring. Walther's grips also tend to fit smaller and aging hands exceptionally well. Now, the advice you've heard your whole life: just get Grandpa a revolver, nothing to rack. There is truth in it. A wheel gun never needs its slide racked and never gets limp-wristed into a malfunction. But here is what that advice leaves out. A double-action revolver trigger runs 10 to 12 pounds, and pulling 12 pounds 50 times at a range session will light up arthritic hands faster than any slide ever will. So the revolver is a real answer, but for the right reasons. If your challenge is racking and loading, a revolver solves it. If your challenge is finger and hand fatigue, it can make things worse. If you go the revolver route, Favor an all-steel medium frame like a Taurus 856 or a used Smith K-frame over the featherweight snubbies, because steel soaks up recoil that airweight guns hammer straight into your wrist. And a .38 Special in a steel gun is a genuinely pleasant thing to shoot. The ultralight snub in a pocket sounds great until you actually have to practice with it. Here's the part half the audience needs to hear. If you wear readers, you already know the problem. The front sight, the target, and your eyes no longer want to focus in the same place. Iron sights ask aging eyes to do the one thing presbyopia takes away. A red dot solves it. One glowing dot on the target in a single focal plane, no glasses gymnastics. This is why optics-ready guns like the Equalizer matter. Shooters in their 70s and 80s are putting dots on their pistols and shooting faster and more accurately than they have in 20 years. There is no medal for struggling with irons. The dot is not cheating. It is corrective lenses for your pistol. Buy a quality one, and if your hands are the limiting factor, have the shop mount and zero it. For inside the home, remember that a long gun is easier to shoot well than any handgun, and that matters more, not less, as we age. 2 hands, 3 points of contact, and a sight radius your eyes can work with. The pistol caliber carbine is the sleeper pick here. Something like a Ruger PC carbine or Smith & Wesson FPC shoots the same 9mm ammo as your pistol, with almost no recoil, minimal muzzle blast indoors, and a red dot on top. For shotgunners, drop from the 12 gauge to a 20 gauge and consider a semi-auto, because the gas system eats a chunk of the recoil for you. A 20 gauge load of buckshot is not a compromise for home defense. It is a proven fight stopper that will not beat up a 70-year-old shoulder. And the lever gun in a pistol caliber remains a completely legitimate, soft-shooting home defense tool that half this audience already knows how to run in their sleep. A few closing notes that matter as much as the hardware. First, ammunition. In whatever you choose, standard pressure defensive loads over +P. The terminal difference is modest. The comfort difference is not. And the gun you practice with is worth more than the load you flinch from. Second, dry fire is your friend. 10 minutes at home with a confirmed empty gun builds trigger control without spending around or fatiguing your hands. Third, storage. Quick access does not have to mean hard access, and modern keypad and biometric safes open easier for stiff fingers than the old push-button boxes. And finally, take a class. Not because you are new at this, most of you have been shooting longer than your instructor has been alive, but because a good instructor will watch your grip and stance and adapt them to the body you have now. Pride is the only thing standing between a lot of experienced shooters and their best shooting years. Getting older does not retire you from shooting or from defending your home. It changes the equipment list. An easy rack 9mm or .380 with load assist magazines, a steel frame .38 if the wheel gun suits your hands better, a red dot so your eyes stop fighting the sights, a soft shooting carbine or 20 gauge by the bed. Try before you buy. Run the push-pull test at the counter and be honest with yourself about what your hands can do 50 times in a row, not once. The industry finally built this gear for you. Use it. If this guide helped you or someone you love keep shooting, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you carry and how old your hands are, because that information helps every shooter reading it. Stay safe, stay armed. We will see you on the next one.